de obabeti ewo ebi enie amampanyi John Dramani Mahama se enche wo babeti interministerial committee and national economic dialogue report munsem nyina wo behwe ama atumi aye adwuma wode ato edwa se Ghana for enye wafam de na ensise mapa enkom se de beya ebeboa ama eniema ne akade a ebemakuayo aya akono no atumi agina ne nan so ewo mai emo na ekopiem ekubekro number 1 so a omanfo na no dem wade sedie nyina ene se ensuo nwasem ka eden ewo mpotamo empanyifo ma ombi a wani ebeso pa ensem pi eka we ho ena mede besomo ewo from to breakfast boy emo obahima efiachre me ena mekenkan ensem amamo kasia no emu ensem enie amampanyi John Dramani Mahama edi atu dwa se enche yebeti interministerial implementation committee na dwumadi a obabedi nyina ene se national economic dialogue report aban emu nsem nyina obehwe se obetumi edi aye ejima.
The final report of the National Economic Dialogue is more than just a policy document. It is a covenant between government and the governed, between evidence and action, and between vision and results. We ask Ghanaians to trust this process, and you did. Today, I reaffirm our end of the commitment. We will implement these reforms with honesty, urgency, and discipline. We will govern not in secrecy, but in openness. We will place national interests above every narrow consideration. In the coming days, I'll issue an executive directive establishing an interministerial implementation committee to coordinate all actions flowing from the dialogue report. That committee will include civil society and private sector observers and will publish its final implementation bulletin by August 2025. Let me thank my uncle, Dr. Ishmael Yamson, and members of his planning committee for the good work they have done in successfully planning and implementing the National Economic Dialogue. I also wish to thank organized labor and the people of Ghana for the patience they have exercised with us while we roll out our resetting agenda for turning our national economy around.
Chairman na Odan National Economic Dialogue Planning Committee no ano eye Dr. Ishmael Yamson na wodi atu dwa se ogidie mapapa se recommendations anansusu ya wo mde eba ni nyina no eye bia ebeboa ama omampanyi ani so ade no se Ghana yensi kasem obe reset no ebetumi edimo.
We are confident, Your Excellency, that you will find the recommendation useful as you lead the resetting Ghana agenda. We also believe that you will find the recommendations appropriate for the current times of extreme global disruptions and uncertainties, where resilience means self-reliance. We are excited to know that even before we have the opportunity to present the final report to you, some of the key recommendations which were fed into the 2025 budget are already being implemented with spectacular results. The recent rapid recovery of the value of the cedi against major currencies has astounded many people who doubted the government's resolve to reset Ghana and its economy. Naturally, the question being asked is whether this is just a blip, and it is a legitimate question because our history is replete with many broken promises. However, Your Excellency, we believe that the progress being made now is sustainable, and Ghana can create a macroeconomic environment which is stable and a country which is attractive to investors, both local and foreign, over the medium to long term. What is required is to ensure that the current drive to reverse some of the fundamental variables that create the macroeconomic instability is sustained.
Yakwa homane so ye ne amane bofo Jacob Kubi twetwe nkomo ni nyina ene se oni GPRT mpanyifo edinkita ho ama de wo kan se nanwa da yi ahyehye and the certificate of emergency dom kase edimrika a wo de 1 cd ababeto petroleum levy so atese se de wo top fuel liter ba ku bi a eda so no GPRT fo nse yentwen sensen awon fa ma
Femini aba
bibi aboko
me ma femini de boko na ashankafo omo nka say Ghana Panania omo mpeni ene omo abaye interjob nhyimu
empanifo nse say
omo kiremu a omo nka bi nhyimu ye na anu ya no hu say abanfo fra wa be odi duma pa ye fanwo ne hu ka ho a omo tete ne ma so pa ye ma omo de to omo ashankafo nenim say send omo atifu oso mana abafo omo ate ne ma no bretu no omo be aka ashankafo no ente ebo no so 20%. Ema ashankafo no anti ate yenkombra no o ashankafo e beti ate no mo de ba 15%. Me tukate omo na adra dodo na akasa omo agi atumu atiti a 50% ne yes ma omo nke bi na nchem omo wo ho ambeti ane se aban esan e de 10% energy levy abato fango so de no omo ti ate a enye yi then kaba ye say aban edi nsa nifa momo ade no de benku afoma motom twi yo de amomo e de film nsem ente ni menim de transport operators and GPRTU mpeni for any achakafon carbon koni nyina mpeni for ene de omo kan say omo ma aban December ekopim 10 June sa lebi no when you so pa dia any omo kan ene wie de adre achakafon nyina say every 10 June dia aban ede abasite so wan twa ansanya ma obia engota state so otu ka dia papa crop efi omo piopi anase taking ede akọ bebe omo so omo be ko strike inde ni menim ya aban enyi sa pe no free ho
awon fe na me pese me baye ntina de ni ye on se aban dika mo mate ahyenti ade bo nso ha nche mu edunom. And na say 1 cd fuel levy so aba enti no 1 cd ni yenyi a omo nko adwuma
ta pepe omo kiremu a yenyi a omo nko adwuma na omo kiremu say 1 cd liter bia na da so enye say bia gallon ni nyina liter bia na da so na ta omo kikambo ma na say gallon ba ku bia abai de 40 60% na aka ho e de amomo na ekma ye say fuel na ye say ya tofo no a omo na me nu su do mo so mo say pen no abai dada omo
on fa so mama na fu 90 enche bedu so ye nhwe de besi e
mbacho yo
be da sepa ya mane bofo Jacob Kubi na onni GPRT fo edinkita ho a wodi ensemi atu edwai na semkro na ehun so mampanye Dwondramani mama o defende o se 1 Ghana cedi fuel levy a omodi ato fan wo liter ba ku bia abo so no ne kwa so anu ehia se aban ne de to so ebeboa ama eka ye de wa modin FM energy sector no yatumi atua se oman.
In line with the dialogue's recommendation to boldly tackle the crisis in the energy sector, Parliament yesterday approved an amendment to the Energy Sector Levies Act and the Certificate of Urgency, introducing a 1 cedi, Ghana cedi, increase in the energy sector recovery levy. This decision, though difficult, is necessary and justifiable. The additional revenue projected is 5.7 billion cedis annually. This revenue will be strictly ring-fenced to pay down legacy energy debt, finance ongoing fuel purchase, and avert the risk of recurring power shortages. Funds from this levy will not be subject to the hazards of the consolidated fund. And the minister is here. I know when money falls into the consolidated fund, it faces certain hazards. It will not be subject to the hazards of the consolidated fund. The fund will be regularly audited and audit reports made public to ensure its transparent use. While initially much of this revenue will go into the purchase of fuel to ensure stable supply of electricity, with the ongoing developments in the upstream sector, we expect to receive more gas from our E&I Sankofa and Jubilee and 10 fields, With also the assurance of additional gas through the West African gas pipeline, we expect to substantially reduce the use of liquid fuels in our energy mix. At that stage, the resources generated by this increased levy will be channeled to pay down accumulated legacy debts in the power sector. With the recent gains in macro stability and strengthening of the Ghanaian cedi, this levy is not expected to result in any immediate fuel price increases at the pump. We are fully aware of the burden this will place on households and businesses, but I want to assure Ghanaians that this decision was not taken lightly. Furthermore, the government will continue working to reduce systemic inefficiencies in the energy procurement and distribution sectors while enhancing targeted social interventions for vulnerable groups.
Ekomba se abande eto 1 cedi ato petrol niema ebeto bia 1 liter eso no na edom kuma wo mrahye bedwam se aban no ankyere se odwen Ghana fo nkra na nka odwen Ghana fo ho asa gina ye nka onsi
ye kase dum so no aba no omo se maaye nti ba ne se ne no mo twa omo ho 360 omo de eye dum so levy breye sa dum so levy we sei enche bia na honorable ato force finance minister oba amrahye bedwam na be levy free ho ana mudi asa eboje so ehurihuri yese mayade ebi nsi da watumi ayi levy free ho no desre ne se eye sa minister ato force na nkasa ana o ka say Ghana for enye se yetua eye tax bia edema ECG ewo ECG inefficiencies say ECG omo abo mo ka gu oni ye ba bitu tax there state agency bia no we say yes ade man ye koda sorry ya e ba ne say na afi the minister ese ye mra metutua eye tax en sanfan kutua eka e ba ne say de na esesa ye na de na afom koda omo dwen ho we ne wosanka omo maye omo de a chopper ebe ye say ade na omo kan na afi de omo ye de omo trasa nya de ye remo sa tax we ho ne say sa 1 cedi tax ye omo de abe compared to e-levy so what the 1,000 cedis send am will be with e-levy it's the first 100 cedis ni enter tax into 900 no and you better so 1% tax into 11,000 cedis you better 9 cedis why winning tax no send you be impact to bottom 1 cedi per liter no so what the call gallon na 4 cedi 50 pesos a gallon and I buy the veggie into so 10 gallons which are 45 cedis e were 10 gallons or so sabe mpe bia ye hu ni ye but enche amanse dwa so bo ne be sha asa akosoro se do na ekosoro na fa won na ekosoro a enye bibia be ka bia driver phone nti if you say abra ban edit tax eto so no ye kasa cha aban ne fa anye de wenti obia
if 1 cedi on each 100 Ghana cedis na ya de na ya de oni a ndisi fo mutala to force mo adongo mo all those guys spoke about Midday koto de ne budget men of reasoning, men of conscience. I am not hearing them like I was expecting to hear. It should not even be coming from us politicians because Ghana for bread. How many CEO's appointment? No so be neutrals. Now, your money for your money down said them to be real if you say Ghana for bread. People who are now showing say they lack principles. Unprincipled characters that we've seen in this country that just about 6 months ago, the very things that are happening today that they spoke against, they are quiet. Unprincipled characters, you know them. But you've seen them. They used the plight of the Ghanaian people. They used some sensitivities from the Ghanaian people, capitalized on it, politicized with it, and some amount of recognition. And today, based on that, we've gotten appointments. Some of them are getting board membership and all that. And they are interest in Biabwa.
Yet workers so Ediama are forced or man for Ebekaya brata yi hu nsensem be ye kese confrontation amoa wo memu a aprosifo so mu yemfa nkọ yemfa mra no empanyifo so abrantie bi mu ede kan ne ho akwadura ne ede bone so mususu so ne atayi kọ na kranda atayi tu nu watiem enti wakodem mfinhia aduonu mienu echirei na court ya babontia beka se ni hu ni asem onifo enti onfa ne ho enkodi Philippa Atanga Mahai
yenya
obapa bibi aboko de
na mi adu bibi aboko
boy court nkomo
yo abrantia ndi ya wasante kefu ena enne na mi aye na ndoma enya ni fa hudi ewo anase efi ase na some of the two for the unit the at 2002 and no go back to memra na se be kaya abranche bi e be ti ni nka wo ga na ha na e na kai ono de tam yo da ti ya se na some buy and e share the camp and na e dem ko to remand 2002 and na e na some at 2010 e na some ri e na se court we do one for again na waya ya charge no for conspiracy to commit work let us say atayi no kono nsama na e hoso ogwa ma kono no so and wa ko dey fi ase ta lemu e san so ni dem won ki for me na nyame na dem we nya lawyer no bi atem no aba court of appeal the court of appeal en hwemu no on ka ban na asem man e san say abanti no e yi na abanti na asem say no oye obi a oye repairer yes motorbike na de entina no kra no ye tuma ma akai na na asem say ni ye tuma ma akai ya ni tuma oye so bi tuma bremia ni tuma ni sana say tuma be no ya sana ma ye tuma entina no ye tuma ma oye akai ne kono nsem ne ma boni ayi ye ka so ni na no nka ho enti na court na ta bija for sa etna court of appeal o ka na asem na wo say do na e de bo no any kwedibofo no ensem ogwa no e de for down court na enu so na court ni na ye edibu an for e ma e de ko ti ya se no omotion sa ensem na e ni na so bia e wo di na so ebu an for e de ko ti ya se enti na no court of appeal e abranche ya asante ki ko onko sa me court na ma di fa an ti na kan e block ni se affected in the card let us say e me de ni ho so ye dia ba bon tin e so wa o ke te fia se e ko 23 years ni na sa me ya ene nya me ya ni adoma we nya wo fa wo ji na na wo ka no ti oni mi awon keti e ye ni ade ni kan te tears of joy e san se na me ni nda wa bre le mo akoya di sna de bebre amanu a wo ji na so e bi etu e mebu ku se so be na asem no e ye bi kakre le mo nyame na aboa no the order the lawyer any the busia any Ghana for ase na no lawyer ni dinji Bernard Shaw George Bernard Shaw aka mo ka tension for ne say adante ni say ya ni na 24 years adame wako de fia da almost 23 years ne say ejuma no wo yan na wo ko fia no da mo ejuma ni na ya bata oni bibia obeleki enti on da famra kwan so no one let the omino ebema abrantie no ana te wura no sika na ne baba ko o ma de no ya arewo e court won say ne ba abayu a wonya 23 years o say pasama ne bawa asem no ba tie ye ne say ye de no ko dia no no wonya 1 month ai ape ne me awo na wonya butume ba ko enti ba no ba say nya ye dia tuni papa suni ama no opepia se akoko sane papa nenne aye yi ni papa no ehu ni obeka ni adu esanse doni beka say she will get to have a personal relationship with next part it is that way oru aye breno ya asante jiku na ye ti ata aye no ye chi ni kan ho stop one no e ma for no the court no court say ne ho so na eni body ya e ti ko fan
ti se ye hwa di mfie na kwani mo keka ko be se mfie aduonu mu nson
eki ade ohu ni mu ka uti se da me ni no eti na 24 a ni mu ni me ti a uti se ti ade ni fie no akọ ni mu a eti a wo ka ko
na apomudi fam no wonya doctor de ba wo na wo hu se ekoyi ana aka akra
wo na no dey o ye fine se enyo to ye hu se PAC reading for care, now, so the lawyer didn't reading officers name number. On I'm calling to Pia, but it's just, and your car, I want to say, okay, just opportunity, you might be opportunity, and you must apply that one being opportunity to get at the car. It's only now, up in the afternoon, the watching or your camp.
Philip anya yeda se na yadu besi ya UTV so bombodian ne lawyer said wabo ne di Owura George Bernard Shaw etwetwe enkomo aseni no echi tie enko na yentie ensem kakra ode tu eja
era nkofo be sisi moto ne che me ka se ba ko no obu minim na na me boa ni na ye adwo mama ni mi fie nya eno ni kwan ayi atayi okay minim ni fie nya ni minim se o ye konfo ana ko je ko na me ye na adwo nya ana ni se fe na atayi sa na fe minim adwo ma o ye taxi driver o enti baby no no ma me yare na me talk no ko no am wa so dem me che me see e fe me say me no ma ba ko boko me kan bi bia o ma nje e ma ya che me auntie me sister be do waju more than 6 months me dem call man 8 years try man 8 months me 210 e jeli me 30 years so ni so me nyefe ti ama me shop na no shop o ko shop na gu me na fufu nyina shop na o ye den shishi moto mi ame wo me shop me wo e wo koroko ana me wo ba boy ba ko ana oba no so na wo nya like 1 month na chi me ko ti de bana me bonya mi pai no bi en se asema de to me so mi ni mu hwe wa ja se ene dia tag mi se me na ko fo mi so me mo ko no da ni me juma na me wa ja se enti bi ba ye juma ma nti bi san se juma be no ye ansa no ye na juma wa so mi ken bi bia e ma je Mr. Bafo bono no ko ya de ko ma me o ya de kwa e ma me lawyer nyina se de be si ne si se na e ma na me be ja de sa na ko se o ma ye fe o ma hwehwe mu se pa me ni mu che so usi mutu mu bia so en se le ko ne beto so se yam de so ma hwe mu se me ni mu bia ti mu na me na ba so ni na be depend me lo ana me lo as me born ba so we di actually more than 10 years we work at nas what I say mi si mi ni pa ti mi o masamba system so mi si ba hwe mu si what I say me hwe mu si pa baby and more in some mission at the papa me a block you now. What yes, and I am paying for so more in some very poor business. Almost only you good, almost sure you see. What yes, yeah, oh, I see. And I do, I see. You know me, you do, so be I.
Owura yawa santi ajekum wakodam besen finhia aduonu miensa atayi nsensemi enho Midday Court of Appeal say ni huso nsabobe acquitted and discharged na chese ye no se onfa ne nkodi kra esan se kwadu ede bon se krono ne ade no onimo machin kra yenko ensemfoforo emoe osofo hwe obo ade ne pa bode mu nyansape ene fidi djuma ho nsem eso eye Honorable Ibrahim Mutala Muhammad waka ade atodwa se enei aban ne partners wo mo ne edi nkita ho e wo wiase afa na nyina ekeka ne ma bomti de obeye ene se bia electronic ne ma biti se TV asai computer asai fridge asai ni ade a yemfa nye hwe no wo mo de ombe dane ni bo ni beka se recycling no mo de ai ne ma pa bibria ebeboa oman.
E-waste is more hazardous than many other municipal waste streams. It contains potentially harmful chemicals such as lead, cadmium, mercury, brominate flame retardants, which affects the nervous system, kidneys, bones, and more, posing particularly risks to children. I was invited as a panelist yesterday on the Gold in Motion organized by the Asante Union Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, the government of Ghana remains committed to working with global partners to ensure the e-waste is sustainably managed and that the livelihood of our youth are preserved. Sustainable e-waste management aligned with several SDGs 3 3, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13.
With EPS vision of a country in which all sections of the community value the environment and strive to attain environmentally sustainable development with sound and efficient resource management taking into account social and equity issues. The mandate of the authority is to regulate and protect the environment, provide for pesticide control and regulation, provide for control, management and disposal of hazardous waste and electrical and electronic waste, and provide for coordination of climate change responses and for related matters.
We say no po ayan bon NSA. Ewo aban hihye mu no ayebo EPA ade ye ni say. Obi biara oye scrap dealer osesa o sa ni amayi a wo fe ne condemn o yen patem no. Say assembly no ni din ko assembly no homemu. Say oyobi a won agye na atum say onye oni se adwuma no e wo yen patem. Afei won so a why recyclers and as what done is any man no one so as I say EPA one didn't call EPA humamu na EPA eshe won kete say mra eda ho a what did say adwuma no wo be di achi pepe another nhye ya yede ama aban ni say aban no so nya nhweso papa emfa ma yen sanse mpa bebre no ko aban nyumamu a one so sa nyama wo obi wo ho sa TV, computers, laptops, access no ebi go on officers. Na ya no obi afechi no watong de ama condemn boys no no de akogun fichiri no won aye ne basa. Enti afi aban no so hwe se ne niam sa ese ya onpe obi a owo nimde. Companies a owo nimde a wode to baby pa eyeye. No one fan to emfa man se na ma ye mpatom ni yensu ane ade nyina no ye nkosai no na enkofa yare ane nsusu asobone emfa mre yen.
Yeko ebuakwa south ewe pwe mantam no emo amane bone kire se MC ne mpanyifo ani abre wo mu edua enua na enua dua no emo no wo mu nkwohwe a se agalamsefo nso emaburu enyanyuma eye de omo ye de esewani ense kache Jesse amankwa mahai
bejo so isefia
ni abema bibia boko de
Yankopon adaroma na onto e
Yankopon hu memobo yentie de eko
yo isefia seda bi kan edi tujua ama akefo anase for 3 no ene anke ye bia ndua ewo ebu akosal eye chebi be specific
okay
na ye butu edie ndua na new MC ono ti abane nam ewo ebu akosal to ha me say mean so many emehwe ni residence ya esese ono tena ho abane anamusini na memehwe ni ekoso ho enu ti no oye head of music ti no friend ni security count na se fia ya for wa galamse yati ena omotutu eye residence ya esese ono MC fofora aban no ede na begina na nemu ni fidie esese otenemu na aban adwuma ewegu afasa so ohwe na odi ni dwuma de fitire ho ena omotutu galamse ni saa akafu na bro na ometutu ni dan ase na me nka wakumwa no ono akasa fi ha itepia se time wo ma ye ne ntwetwe nkomo kakra se emre o ma
fa ne mame na me ne nkomo kakra
yo na boye ma fa baba ti yo me da ma se na ene odi en for resident ye wo se o ti tre na minim se o ba ye se atem we so mu se
assistant the between and work through the year. The Bukra and the conform to say to me, almost free Ghana house, almost free the jet, yeah, the end of mobility stage, man. And the crew found soon as say, you want to what? You know, one thing, but you remember, and you know, Chibiha, open no bush out there. Now, Mokofa, I hope we accept you one more, ever say, your mind, into Yensa, and no Christian Yawadaruma, in a Mopoa Maya Koi, Yensa, so do one name. Into true or no, you don't need pop and power which has it. Now, you put out for this one and rap and no be. We have the impression no more when you not accept it as an example to be a wise is put with the true sex, sentiment on this building.
Anna, what's a minka?
But
wo hwe wo fiche ona ye tutu na eye bibi eye wo form shallow and shada nko deep and we de e ko form na se na ama watena ene so aye hu afa
almost every koli somebody has saw nipika no much to bomo wa de pa so much to afofo be almost 4 feet almost go for be almost 4 feet
wow
now master no tino no more dey akobe before proper for washing no tino we good na dey every yeah intinyame adum ye saka omo 5 circles omo de sasa no tino omo de kono miensa yesizi almost so no pickers more than 50 nina yesa kana hwenipa omukra pickers they ask more than 50 of you to you can only imagine okay you dia owura bebo film I didn't hear apunta e wogana
MC ti wo sha enye se o ma ye aja okọ omugusu a o mo ye de nyame ado ma so bi mu
omugusu o mo ye na de ma sabim ye ya kra de se omugu se o ba na de ye proposal
okay
itu wo ba wani mi na mo so mo proposal na je se o mo ko gbadi
ama watena ne ohwa ehu ana foundation eye
but o say
o foundation ohwa a sheki no ana eye enye hu sa
I idea and shiny to me and now am I need
okay
to me that up at for my need to cry what
yes and many we are going to mean now just say bi ba
you and this is a cost war
yo now why fanyina meet you
me person me form of video na make us we dey come from
okay
you will go forward work out car of manam so more consenting to one find so to form a good no we try to answer man for stay in sewer any year any year start mashishima ba hu say tanko funi nyina nkra bi ani nkra concession document ya omo sheda na omo pom timofo isa o musika o penti me catch omo pom dade no masikan embubo mede and yes, sir, America clear there. The name is music, security paid for. Yet, share the go up from yes, so one. Said, the paper man grab battle in Yao, if you to be shed, elbow by near the elbow. Almost some cracker, oh, yeah, Juma more yellow, and yet, Pampan or Mufaso or more yet. Because mine, you know, your amount of documents I show. You will lay down regulations that I was say where they would do so. Omo would do so. You be show and them bracket so who be these regulations also. Now ochimai etuma koso afa into my part efla.
Yeah, that one no ase. And say music mo be sani police for so apart na ma patrol ahwe. Enye bia na nya won kwa wodan na chi na emia bi nso.
The patrol say.
Mesia bia wo between police for carbon na patrols bia koso. Ni ahwe bia na nya wodan ne nko a achi.
That she ni na egu afam.
Okay.
That she ni na may sound out warning. Ama oma sabi omu disa ikaponi. Yeah, excuse omo ma say eduma ni ho and omu ye itu ye jawo ye for ye si han. Sabi say robbery so sabi obi eni wo pepper oboso okoko so. A complete no mo so obo yesa. And it's like almost ye jawo me. If ye jawo mo eyi any illegality is an illegality, and I, as Wikis, as a municipality executive of the Buapas House, will not spare entertain any illegality here in the Buapas House municipality.
MC, you remember mo anika say we.
Yo, it's not to say here, Nipa, Bay 12, and I answer a car won't start to see a police for cooking. Now, the customer say, oh, my Ghana for, oh, my foreign national thing for it is the police for Kukuma. Emra edi ni police force say ya the begu akwamu piano meshe ama etie for nso aso afenia ekwa akuti
Jesse amankwa ibema moni adwuma o
bida so sepia
keda sepa yemfi ebuakwa south yemra ensemfoforo emom Oswafo hwe oboade ne pa abodie mu nyansape ene mfidi dwuma ho nsem eso eye honorable Ibrahim Mutala Muhammad wodi ato Ghana kuafo nyina enim se kua ne de wo monye na mo womfa abefo kwan a eye papa na makua no eye akono so enye na oboade ne pa environment no yembo ho bai
responsible one agricultural practices or smart agricultural practices are very important. Now we also need to take steps to educate people, to let them understand the need for us to sustain the land that we have. Because once the land is destroyed, we are affected. Food production will be affected. Livelihood of people will be affected. The economy will not grow. The needed jobs will not be created. Foreign exchange would be spent more on things that we have the capacity to produce. We spend, in fact, in 2016, I remember by the time the NDC left office, and the figures are there, we're spending about $500 million in the importation of rice and poultry products. By the time NDC took over again, this president in 2025, we're spending over $3 billion in the importation of rice and poultry products. So naturally, when we are spending $3 billion in the importation of something you have the capacity to produce, it is going to affect the economy. So what we need to do as a people is to support our farmers, particularly smallholder farmers, so that they can engage in smart agriculture. The chemicals they use should not be a danger, if you like, to the land and the environment to a very large extent. And the only way we can do that is through research.
For us to be able to get lots of more of women to be able to access land, we need to have an effective conversation with our traditional leaders, and in other areas we call them the Tindanes who own land, so that when we are able to negotiate with them, women would be able to get lots and bigger plots of land to be able to engage. For now, a lot of them depend on family lands, a lot of them depend on lands of their husbands. We've made some minimal progress. I think that a lot more needs to be done so that women who are into farming could be able to get larger acreage of land so that they can increase their production.
Today's event is a mid-term seminar that is looking at the status of progress. So it's a learning event, it's an accountability event, and so far the highlights is really to bring up the issue of sustainable land management, issues of soil health, issues of land degradation, soil erosion, to bring them up to the attention of policymakers particularly, and of really the general public, and also to showcase the progress that is being made in this domain of sustainable land management, using the case studies in the countries where this project is being implemented, in Ghana, in Senegal, in Togo, Namibia, Kenya.
Wugusu a wo hwa kasie e wo United Television eso Ship House Abeka Junction enkran ye bon komo kakra e wo studio ha mene nana prempe okoji abo eduhene or executive director for mediation and arbitration Consumer Protection Agency bempa mahan
mejoso meni aba
bibi aboko de nyamiase abusia for de enti ani opanyi be bon komo nyina ne se nanu adai Consumer Protection Agency abo adwuma or my research bia tia Food and Drugs Authority na say hey said diapers bi odwa so a dada crap e fake enye papa and na FDA edi omhwehwe mu na chi ama enei diapers a enye papa no wasei ni nyina enu nti na owura eduhine ewe nchen ewa ha opanyi ye bema mubo ene ejuma
medamas
na Consumer Protection Agency e ba ne se na mu se ye ne na mo nyina diapers bi kan ho a enye papa
yo mini ma menna wase na menna wahwe for so na ne yetisi se Consumer Protection Agency there most of the time you complaint mame for efrey nana yekodwuma yekoto diapers bi di moye ma na omo ase omoto ho ayen sansan ne ade nti yenso ya mananda ho yehwehwe mu na yeko 5 regions Greater Accra, Kumasi, Tamale, Sunyani and as also for Western North ne yekoye no yehu se na diapers ni bi wodwuma first of all no standard no kra isa but ye diapers wodwum nyina whether ne ye wo Ghana ha o ye kra and ye de koye test ye koye test ne yehu se particular ones bi wo omo faili o microbial test and a contamination test no and nti na ye me de kodan FDA ono na ye asoye a obetuma ye ho adwuma no so kohwehwe ma we diapers almost 1 million.
Wow.
I'm in Rechi 29th April. Yeah, no, unfortunately, no, there are still some of the marketer that will say about a phone almost.
Wow. Yeah, that must be na yen say nana. Say mimi yo for me ko dwa so a me dem say diaper nya papa say me de diaper wo dwa so na ja me to bia bo me ba ana enti mu educate ye kaka ne nhwa de.
Okay, ne ba ya ne say enti am ka say ye nhwehwe mu no diaper no bu wa say diaper ye papa no say wo suma obehu
sound
the sign say ne layers no ye thick.
Okay,
ne ba no ye plain apart from ne ba na enye no ne omo kofa ba no ne omo ye ne say diaper equip through production and this is a canipa from starting to the end no your friend human intervention or say less diapers we know one kofa ba no equip production na ebe free mu no na Ghana ni akofa free container bola ni mo China no no wasese gu container mu dia ba Ghana owi o dia be gu fom amansan o de ordinance asese dia gu rubber mu say without ebasa na aye contaminated dada akara ho ade no aye very complicated e sign say akara immune system no ene wo de na nyepe ni micro na wo ni mu na a fight disease no ene wo de nyepe nti de bia no boni ye bibia e fa akara ho no o ye very careful so we hwe ye TV so a nkwara ne bi wo a aye kohwe wo hospital mame
diaper na o mabo mo to ho aroro bi ho ahyehye sa no
ene ye friend no a skin burns no because we hwe diaper we a aye very thin it is a paper enti se akara no wo de bono no ada odunso ba ko mienu miensa na ayeden na afo ebedu ade chi na Johnson say acidic no na ne tuhu nyina ensan obehunu no anya skin burns na the treatment is difficult you ko hu akwara bia wonya 6 months pe a oda hospital say biota fracture we dem shrem akwara wonya 6 months na ne private area anya infection no ontumi na the whole night the whole day na obesu na say eba san so osu no mama ya wo fie ontumi na papa wo fie ontumi na wakoto ade ayefo 1 cedi na fe no de ama yare e de abema wo ba enu nti na ene ye gina ha no ye nyina ha ewo abunmu kra ye ni abre because enkran na our future say yan hwe akra ontumi nkasa na say yan hwe ne amomo ba yan say ye mpanyimfo no ye na ye di omo aba
ha na yan beni so ye ba be ko afutu be na ode ma hwe form ni titu ne ma time for a ye kodwa so a diaper bia e beto we ase paper
mpatro we de wo kodwa so a enye diaper bia na wo so woto diaper say ye ka ho asemi obekọ no na ya hyehyɛ no rubber mu plain nesi ti wo bebre ukọ so 1 cedi 2 cedi paper ocho ukọ ya consumer protection dey for baby feel test and use so ukọ not a test channel because one hwe test channel o so crobet be di nsuo kra guso no ahwe obe mu say we no absorb nsuo o wi nso ahwe kilos na wo ho no hwe batch number 1 hwe production hwe country free so amasese bibi kosi kra na o use diaper na etumye trace yechi yakohwe so one hu sa ne man nyina mento so who alarm so a no ma FDA force and so ma consumer protection agency for yes what
ye da serie ye be ma mbo ene adwuma ma ya de pa abusuan for consumer protection agency for dwumadie papa wo madie na enam so food and drugs authority as say diapers enye papa bebro opepem baako nano ade ya ewo edwaso ye ma mbo ene adwuma na prempe okonji abo eduhene executive director for mediation and arbitration consumer protection agency yenyina we so na ye ntonkre ye ba bongo difara agopramaso ensem ye basisia
prem to break us ye boy eye ecobank adaroma and waso yasne